One big problem we have as kayak and bank fishermen is we're limited to the amount of gear we can take out at any given time. And how do you determine what to take with you when you hit the water and what to leave behind? Well, my fellow tackle junkies, today I'm going to show you all the lures I take when I hit the water and exactly how I organize them. Let's get to it, guys. All right, so this is my main bag here. This is the bag I'm gonna have with me at all times. And for you guys who fish ponds, you all recognize a bag like this. So this has pretty much everything I need for any outing. I do have a couple extra bags I'm gonna go through, but this is my main one here. So let's start with the front compartment. I'm sure you guys notice right off the bat, there is a wacky rig tool in here. We're coming on that time of year where the wacky rig is gonna be a big player. I do have extra O-rings, but I'll show you that once we get into the bag itself. In the front pocket here, we have super glue. So super glue is very good for gluing your swim baits onto your jig heads. It's also good for small cuts as well. So it's a very good thing to just keep in your bag. We have fishing scissors. So it's very important to keep 2 or 3 pairs of fishing scissors with you anytime you go out. Don't bite it with your teeth, guys. I have a chip in one of my teeth from where I've actually bit down on fishing line. So be sure to keep a couple of these guys in your bag and in your life vest. They're very inexpensive and they work really well. And last but not least, a plug knocker. So a lot of the crankbaits we're using, a lot of the lures we're using are very expensive. So we want to make sure to get the most out of our investment we possibly can. That's when these plug knockers come into play. I'll usually keep about 2 of these in my bag at any given time. And they cost around $15 for a set of 3, but they're definitely worth their weight in gold. All right, let's get into the bag itself. So I'm gonna set this tackle box aside for right now. I'm gonna set this bag of tackle aside for right now. I'm gonna show you all what this looks like from the inside. So the nice thing about this bag is it does have a few different pockets on the front here, and I'll show you exactly what I keep in these pockets. So the top pocket I use primarily for flipping stuff. So I have my weights here, I have my ring hooks here, I have my straight shank hooks here, I have my horny toad hooks, and then I have extra bobber stops and extra O-rings for that wacky rig tool. So that's all what I keep in my top pocket. A lot of times I'm fishing a Texas rig, so these are a lot of the baits I'm using very often, and that's why I keep them on top. And sticking on the theme of terminal tackle, I have another section in my bag that is strictly for terminal tackle. So we have drop shot hooks, power shot hooks, we have mosquito hooks that are used for wacky rig, we have lead nails that are used for Nico rigs, and then we have a ton of shaky heads as well as Ned rig heads in here too. So keep all those nice and compact. In the bottom pocket, I keep 3 different bags. I actually got these from old lures, so it's kind of just repurposing what was already there. So the first one I keep is going to be for swim bait hooks. So these are essentially Texas rig swim bait hooks. They have that spring on there to keep them, and I have a bunch of different sizes and weights. Those are going to come into play very soon, and it's something I'm actually going to be throwing a lot more this year. Then we have exposed head swim bait hooks. So little Kayak ball jigs. All kinds of exposed swim bait hooks. Got ones that put off a flash, regular ones. It's a huge variety in there. Again, different sizes, different weights. And then last but not least, we have more exposed swim bait heads. So these guys are going to be used more for mag drafts, and I have them all the way from a 1/4 ounce to big 1 ouncer. So again, just a big variety in there. I spent a lot of money on tackle over the years, and I like to keep them in these bags because it also keeps them somewhat waterproof. Now, if my bag ever gets rained on, what I'll do is I'll put it in front of a box fan as soon as I get home and open up all my tackle boxes. But these little bags also help them keep from rusting as well. Next up, I want to go to that bag that I kept in that big compartment. So this bag is all flipping baits. So as you guys can see, a ton of different baits in here. I'll go through a couple of them. So you got to keep some bandito bugs in your bag. These things just flat out catch fish. I'm basically always keeping black and blue and some sort of green pumpkin in all these flipping baits. Another one of my favorite jig trailers is going to be the Stroker Crawl. So again, black and blue. Somewhere in here I'm going to have a variation of green pumpkin, of the Stroker Crawl. So as you guys can see, there's a couple different baits that I like, and I keep all my flipping baits inside this package. I like to separate it out between flipping baits, swim baits, and worm style baits. That's personally how I like to do it. So keeping all these flipping baits in one spot makes it very, very simple for me. So let's get into the hard baits and jig style baits. This is my primary box. This is typically the one that I'm digging through. As you all can see, I have it pretty well organized in here. So on the top, I have my shallow diving crankbaits. I have my flipping jigs in this section. I have my chatterbaits in this section. I have my medium diving crankbaits in here. So these typically go to about 8 feet. I have my swim jigs in here, and I have my lipless crankbaits in here. So a lot of times if I'm grabbing a lure, it is out of this main box. This is basically what I live out of when I'm on the water. But you guys who have watched the channel, you all know I love to power fish shallow. So essentially this box has all the things I need to power fish shallow. The next box that we have is pretty much my topwater box. So I have a couple of frogs in there. That'll be full of frogs before the season's done. I have my whopper plopper style baits in this section. I have my popper style baits in this section. And then I always keep a couple jerk baits. I don't throw jerk baits a lot once we get past March and April. It's probably something that I need to throw a little bit more, but I always do keep a couple in my box just in case. And you guys will probably notice that in my box, I've pretty much de-winterized it already. I've taken out all my winter lures and put in my spring lures. Spring is coming on incredibly fast this year. The dogwoods are already blooming, which is just absolutely crazy. So getting my topwater in there and getting those other baits out was extremely important to me. And it's something I recommend you guys doing as well very, very soon. The next box that we have, this is basically what I consider my extras box. So in here I have a couple deep diving jerk baits. I have a couple more lipless crankbaits. So again, just kind of an extras box. I don't throw too much of this stuff in here. I do also have some blade baits in here. Blade baits are actually really good for schooling bass come summer. A lot of people don't throw those, but that's something that I like to throw when I do find schooling bass. So again, this is my extras box, not too much to mention here. Now the last hard bait box is this guy right here. So a couple years ago, I decided that I wanted to get into deep cranking. So I bought a really nice G Loomis crankbait rod. And I bought a ton of deep crankbait. So this is essentially my deep cranking box. It goes all the way from 8 to 10 feet, all the way to 25 feet. But I do have a couple other things in here. So as you guys can see, I kind of just have a loose mag draft hanging out in here. I have a couple glide baits in here as well. Anything that's a little bit too big to fit in the other box, I'll put in here. I have a massive square bell. Look at that thing. Catching a 10-pounder on that guy this year. And then a buzzbait, of course. And one of my favorite sneaky baits that I have in here is this topwater walking bait. This is a Mag Dog. I don't think they actually make this anymore. It's a 6 cents bait. This thing is so good in June and July. But don't tell anybody I told you. So yeah, pretty much a deep crankbait box, but it does fit things that are a little bit too big to fit anywhere else. And let's go on to the next bag. So our next bag is a dry bag. I don't have this in a dry bag for any particular reason. There are some things that have hooks in here, but really not too many things have hooks. A lot of it is soft plastics, which you guys will see. But I really like the shape. This fits very, very well under my seat, so that's why I keep this guy around. All right, so 2 more bags of soft plastics here. So we have our worm soft plastic and we have our smaller swim bait soft plastic. So of course in the worm bag, you're gonna have Senkos. So black and blue, green pumpkin, black flake. The only 2 colors of Senkos you need in my opinion. I have shaky head worms in here. I have Ned rig worms in here. And I have drop shot worms in here. So we have Power Baits flatworm, we got some robo worms in there. So all my worms basically go in this bag. I'll also keep horny toads in this bag as well. Horny toads are pretty fragile with their legs and you don't want them to get folded over. So I'm still trying to figure out a good organization spot for horny toads, but right now I'm just keeping them in the worm bag. And the small swim bait bag is pretty self-explanatory. So we have a spark shad, we have some 6 cents divine swim baits, probably one of my favorite smaller baits, which is a Kayak Fat Swing Impact in 2.8. And then also what I did is I have a little sandwich bag here that I put my loose soft plastic bags in that are not in hard plastic. And that just keeps them from floating around, keeps the tail more straight when they're in this bag and they can't really move around as much. And once we get to the bottom of the dry bag, probably another reason why I like the shape of this so much, is we have all these swim baits. So you guys already know, mag drafts, Zoom 5-inch swimmer, Fat Swing Impacts. We have them in 4.8. We have them in 5.8. We have them in 4.3. So a bunch of different size Fat Swing Impacts. We have a big coal shad, which is essentially with that mag draft with the harness on it, or the Berkeley coal shad. I actually went to buy the Berkeley coal shad and I ended up getting a couple of these. So I typically don't use the line through method as much as I do a beast hook, but I'll probably mess around with this bait a little bit this year. And of course, more mag drafts. because who can ever have enough mag drafts? Oh, almost forgot. Trash fish as well too. So these are all my bigger swim baits, and these all sit at the bottom of that dry bag. And the last bag I carry around with me is probably one of the most important bags. And I'm not sure how many people do this, but in the front of this bag, you guys can see I have a lot of line. So there's only a couple different lines that I actually use. 8 pound, 10 pound, 12 pound, and 17 pound. Those are all that I use, but as you guys can see, I always keep extra line with me. It's extremely important, especially because I tie a lot of braid to leader, that I have line with me. So I'm gonna keep that in my bag. As you guys can see, I have 5 spools of line with me at all times. That is very important to me, and it's something I bring out on every single trip. This bag is also my spinnerbait bag. So I have these spinnerbaits kind of separated out. Essentially, I have a 1/4 ounce spinnerbaits all the way up to 1.5 ounce spinnerbaits, kind of in different compartments here in the bag. Spinnerbaits are spinnerbaits. There's definitely some that I prefer, like the Megabass SV3, but essentially, we have our spinnerbait separated out here. Nothing too much to talk about there. What I do want to talk about is I also have some punching stuff here as well. So these are actually all punching skirts that I have here. And in the back of this, these are all punching weights right here. So this bag actually has 3 purposes: spinnerbaits, punching baits, and line. So I always take this with me when I have my kayak. Again, that main bag is one that I always have with me, but if I'm on my kayak, I'm always gonna take the spinnerbait bag, and I'm always gonna take that dry bag with me as well. And that is all the lures I bring every single time I hit the water. Let me know in the comment section below, am I bringing too much? Am I missing some things? And how are these organization tips gonna help you with your fishing tackle this year? Thank you all so much for watching. I'll link a ton of stuff down below if you're interested. Stay tuned for more to come, and I cannot wait to see you guys on the next one.